Good, everyone. So, just to sort of finish off what we were looking at, I didn't give you last Tuesday, did I? So last week, last Sunday. Apologies for that. And then to go forward with this. So, we're working our way through the machlokas, Rava and Abaya in the unraveling of the Gezeiras of Nechemia, Chavruta, what exactly that means. And the first chiluk that we were discussing was the difference between chama l'tel as opposed to tzorich gufay, tzorich mekoma, which is more allowed. And we saw in the Rishonim, the only svara I could see as to the issa of chama l'tel was a hachana type svara. I don't think they mean that there's an issa hachana in moving it chama l'tel, because I'm simply moving something to protect it. But what they're saying is there is less. It's not a tzorich because it's not needed for Shabbos. It's not a tzorich Shabbos. The heter of moving something, the tzorich gufay, the tzorich mekoma, is that it's a tzorich Shabbos, whereas milchama l'tel is not a tzorich Shabbos. We saw that in the language of Rashi, chutzrach lo b'Shabbos, and we saw that in the language of the Meiri, the nimtz metal to the tzorich chol. So again, I don't think it means it's hachana. It means it's not there. There's no allowance of tzorich Shabbos. The problem is that there was a stage where milchama l'tel was even also for a tzorich, even for klishim nachta leheter. Now klishim nachta leheter is a tzorich Shabbos, and nonetheless milchama l'tel was also. So I don't know. There you have to say new sorrow that since you don't directly need it, it's just protecting it. That would be called, that wouldn't be enough of a tzorich. I don't know if that's a raya, that this svara of tzorich Shabbos is not enough. You'd say there's another tzorich, that milchama l'tel is a weaker need. It's a need to avoid it getting ruined rather than an actual positive need that I want to use it. It's interesting that the tzorich mekoma is called a positive need. The tzorich mekoma also, you could argue, is not a positive need. It's moving something out of the way so you can use the mokum. But nonetheless, I want to use the mokum. Whereas milchama l'tel is a negative need. It's a protection. That could be that I don't know. That was the best I could sort of suggest. Did anyone else have any other stories on this?
I mean, tzorich mekoma presumably it's also because you need that space on Shabbat, and you've got a designated use for it that you've got in mind for that space on Shabbat. So maybe it's even though it's almost to be used for something or moved for something, it is still only going to be if you actually want that space on Shabbat. So maybe milchama l'tel was also you have to have a particular need.
That's what I'm saying. Even tzorich mekoma is called a positive need. I have a positive need for the space, whereas milchama l'tel is just a negative thing. I don't want it destroyed. So so the Rishonim that say that the story is it's not called a tzorich Shabbos are going in the maskana that klishim melachot le'issa is also milchama l'tel, but klishim melachot leheter is mutter milchama l'tel. But in the earlier stage, where not maskana havim, I shouldn't put it havim, but in the earlier stage in history, where milchama l'tel was also even by klishim melachot leheter, you'd have to say a different story. It's not about tzorich Shabbos, but it's about that it's removing of a problem. It's avoiding it being destroyed as opposed to a positive need. That's what you'd have to say. That's the further of the svara.
Could you use this tzorich gatherance
those words are, I suppose, technically correct, but I don't know if they I don't know if they hit the point on, because I mean, even tzorich gavra, even tzorich hefzer, why do I care about the object? Because
you're not going to care about the object. You're going to
the reason I care about the object is because it's useful for me. So it gets back to human needs.
Yeah, but
I mean, I want the object. Why?
I need this object. I need the place. It's to do with me.
Correct, but I need the object. In other words, why do I want to protect my property? Because I care about my property. Ultimately, I'm not doing it because I don't think thinking about it as a distinction. The chayfetz and the gavra is helpful here, because again, I don't need to go with me, because I care about the object because I care about myself. I want the object. So I don't know if that's I don't find that the critical formulation. So either like the Rishonim say, because it's a Shabbos need or a non-Shabbos need, or in klishim nachta heter because it's removal of a problem. But ultimately, it gets back to my needs. I'm moving things. I'm not doing it to protect my pets, right? It's not a rabbit that I care about. The Tsar Bali Chaim. I'm not worried about the rabbit's feelings. I don't care about the cup's feelings or whatever it is, the mobile phone, the smartphone's feelings. I want it for my human needs. So it all gets bound down to human needs. The question is it a Shabbos need or not, or is it removal of a problem? I don't know.
I, as the person, I have the obligation to Shabbat. The thing doesn't have any obligation.
True, but I'm not moving it because of the thing. I'm moving it because I want the thing. So I don't. To me, that doesn't seem to be a helpful. It's a technically correct formulation, but I'm not sure it's a helpful formulation.
Maybe you just don't want to spoil your Shabbat by worrying about this.
Correct. It's a human need. Yeah, I want to. Yeah.
Some aspect of Shabbat
Right.
is protected.
Yeah. In Hilchas Hachana, we do say such a svara. If you put away an object after using it on Shabbos or Yom Tov, that's not called Hachana generally, because I'm not putting it in a place where it would get damaged. That means I'm not putting it away because I want to have it I want to prepare it for tomorrow. I'm putting it away because I want my property to be protected. That's not a Hachana need. There's such a svara in Hachana. That's why I said I don't think when the Rishonim say I'm not doing it for Tzorech Shabbos, I don't think they mean it as a Hachana svara. I think they're saying that the Tzorech that allows you to move the Gezeiras Nechemia for or Muktza for is Tzorech Shabbos, not for other Tzorachim. I think that's what they mean. Yeah, sorry.
Your last point was exactly
That's what you're going to say. Yeah. I don't think they mean Hachana. I think they mean Rashi says love Tzorech Shabbos. I think that sort of says it all. It's
so you have to put things away to protect them. It's not considered Hachana.
Correct. We let's say first day Sukkot, you shake your lulav and esrog, and then you put the esrog back in the box.
But more than that, if you've got a leak in your roof and you've got your clean Shabbat leheta and you're protecting it, it's not going to get down. You're supporting, even though you're protecting for another day. That's not considered Hachana.
Right. Okay. So then we get into other issues of Natal Kimechano because of leaks. Remember the earlier Sukkot Daf Mem Beis and Sorim Aklish Melach Leheta. But you can think up a similar thought experiment which would bring out your point. Yeah, protecting your property in and of in itself is not hachana. It's just I want my property protected. Nonetheless, here we're saying it's also because it's not Tzorech Shabbos. There would be that's I think what they mean more than saying it's a problem of hachana Tzorech Chol, which is the language in the Iri technically. But the point is it's not Tzorech Income Tzorech Shabbos Klal. He says. I think that's what it means. Okay, that was the best I could get to all of this. Now I just want, I suppose, to share with you that there's a number of sfeikas that come out to the dinner in all of this, and just a few things that we can think about that the post can discuss based upon this halacha of Nechemia L'Tel is not such a clear-cut halacha exactly what it means. So number one, if you have we did ask the question. We asked if you have a klisha melachot l'issa, how can the Meiri and Rashi say it's tzorech chol? You can use klisha melachot l'issa on Shabbos. You allow this hammer, right? My hammer's getting ruined because it's near. I don't know. There's a fire or getting wet, and I can't move it because it's Nechemia L'Tel. And that's called tzorech chol, not tzorech Shabbos. Why? I can use the hammer for cracking coconuts. So we answered that klisha melachot l'heta is omeid for a Shabbos use. Klisha melachot l'issa is not omeid for a Shabbos use. But what happens if it is omeid for Shabbos use? If I'm planning this afternoon to have a coconut party and crack coconuts with a hammer, right? Why would you have a coconut party? Good question. But you're having it. No, I'm laughing at you're not. Yeah, so I'm having a brachas party, right? And I know I'm going to have coconut later as one of my brachas. Why would you? What would that be mutter Nechemia L'Tel? So if the tzvara is tzorech Shabbos, I think Nechemia L'Tel would be mutter in this case because it's a tzorech Shabbos. If the tzvara is that it's considered not necessary enough, it's removal of a problem as opposed to a positive need, then maybe not. Maybe at the moment now it's removal of a problem. It's not a positive need, so maybe that would be called. That wouldn't be allowed. I'm just bringing this out. The halacha is a little unclear. What's the gather of Nechemia L'Tel? Then there's a whole. This next point is not my own idea. I saw it in one of the lichot Sorim. there's a whole rage about actually what's called a positive tzorach. How positive does it need to be? It gets a bit into your points about avoiding worry on Shabbos. So I get distressed if my kidney gets ruined. Can I give someone a gift of a Muktza item on Shabbos? So there's issues around giving gifts, but let's say in a case where you're allowed to give a gift, like Chassan on during their Shavuot week, we're allowed giving gifts on Shabbos because it's simple as Chassan. Can I give them a Muktza item? So they're setting up a new home, and I plan to give them a Kenwood, very generous. My camera just broke, so I've discovered how expensive these horrible devices are. Very generous gift, right? Several £100, and I give it to a chassan on Shabbos. So is that called a positive use or not? Is that called tzorech Shabbos or not tzorech Shabbos, or is that tzorech chol because you can't use it for Shabbos? On the other hand, the chassan is happy about it. They get this gift on Shabbos, and they know they'll have delicious challahs in future weeks. Again, it remains a little unclear. It's not entirely clear. What about using a keli, a kli shemelachto la heta, let's say, or according to Rabba, that kli shemelachto la heta is also. Rabbi says, let me get my maths right. Rabbi said that Klishim Nachta Laheta. Okay, we don't see it here. Okay, it's another Rabbi elsewhere. He says Klishim Nachta Laheta is also the Mechama L'Tel. Let's say you have a scenario of Klishim Nachta L'Issa, L'Tzorech, protecting something, or something that's also Mechama L'Tel, L'Tzorech protecting something. We have an example of that in Daf Mem Beis, where you're kofa olav kli to protect an egg. So again, is that called a tzorech gufoy or not? Interesting shaila, right? Is that called tzorech gufoy? So you're using a kli. We saw that you can't put the kli under the egg because of mevatel kli me'echono, right? You're making the kli muktzah. But can you use a kli to protect an egg on Shabbos? Is that called tzorech gufoy because you're protecting something? Or is it not a tzorech gufoy because you're protecting something you can use after Shabbos? Or it's removal of a danger? So again, you get it's a little unclear. I'm just saying halacha l'maisa. It's a little unclear what the gather of Mechama L'Tzel is when things switch from one need to another need. Then I'll just give you one other example from the sukkahs we learned. You're allowed to put a non-Muktza item on top of a mace to facilitate moving the mace on Shabbos. Can you put a Klishim Lachta L'Isra on top? Or only a Klishim Lachta L'Heta? So the logic of saying only a Klishim Lachta L'Heta is a Klishim Lachta L'Heta you can move. The mace now becomes like a tray, as we saw for the Klishim Lachta L'Heta. You can move it. Klishim Lachta L'Isa, you can't move. Or do we say Klishim Lachta L'Isa, you can also move L'Tzorech Gufay Makomai, and therefore maybe putting it on top of a mace is enough. So I don't really have any clear answers to these. I did, as I said, these are not my only things. I did a little perusing in some of this sort of likuts for him, and each one of these ends up being a machlokas. There's no clear hachra. All I really want to draw out of this is that we're a little to summarize, just so we're not left completely confused. It's a little unclear what the svara of why Mechama L'Tzel is not okay. The svara l'chora, the Rishonim say the svara is for tzorech macha, but that doesn't seem to be enough of a help for Klishim Lachta L'Heta. That's point number one. And point number two, we can now begin dreaming up scenarios that push us to the boundaries of what we really mean by Mechama L'Tzel. What's the boundary of Mechama L'Tzel? Would it apply where I'm planning to use the Klishim Lachta L'Issa for Heta later? Would it apply to protect a non-Muktza object? Would it apply to protect a Muktza object? Would it apply to act as a allowance to move a mace? And various nafkaminas like that. I mean, for example, protecting a non-Muktza object, would that be if the svara of, again, let's say I want to put a kli on top of a non-Muktza object to protect it. Let's just flesh out the svara. A Klishim Lachta L'Issa on top of a non-Muktza object to protect it. So I have a Klishim Lachta L'Heta which has been ruined by the Chama, by the sun. Can I put a non-Muktza object on top of it to protect it? So if the logic of Mechama L'Tzel why it's us is because it's a protection, it's for tomorrow, not for today. Well, here I'm doing it for the sake of Klishim Lachta L'Heta, which is made for use today, and therefore it would be allowed. If the lomdus of not being able to move Mechama L'Tzel is because a Klishim Lachta L'Issa isn't allowed when it's just removal of a problem rather than a positive use, then this is removal of a problem rather than a positive use, because I'm using it to protect something rather than positively use it, even though the thing that I'm using to protect is a Klishim Lachta L'Heta. Are you with me? Yeah? Is that, Gary? Is this okay?
I lost that.
Okay. Again, Mechama L'Tzel, why is Mechama L'Tzel asa? So either because I'm doing it for it's a Kli Shemachta Issa, it's got no use for today, or because we don't allow Kli Shemachta L'Issa to remove a problem. We only allow it for a positive use. So if I'm using a Kli Shemachta L'Issa to protect a Kli Shemachta L'Heta, Mechama L'Tel. I have a fragile Kli Shemachta L'Heta, and it's going to get ruined by the sun, so I want to put a Muktza item on top of it to shade it. If the reason for the Issa of Kli Shemachta or Mechama L'Tel is because it's for Sorech Mocha, it's for tomorrow, it's not for Shabbos, and here I'm protecting Kli Shemachta L'Heta, which is Sorech Shabbos. But if the reason for the Issa is that we don't allow removal of a problem, we only allow a positive use, then this is removal of a problem, not a positive use. Okay, so again, without going to the nitty-gritty, or those who want to can listen to the recordings, just to summarize, Mechama L'Tel, the boundaries of Mechama L'Tel remains a little unclear in the poskim, and I did a little bit of shuffling around the Sforim and the sort of Likut Sforim and modern Halacha Sforim just to try and get my Makomas on this. A lot of these discussions remain as a bit of machlokas, remain slightly unresolved in Halacha, what the boundaries of Mechama L'Tel are.
Was used for kiss from kiss, which is completely different. Yeah. Oh, that's the basis of that.
No, Chesaron Kiss is a unique type of Muktza, which isn't omed for any other use. Normally a KD is by default omed for any other use. No, different mondos. Mechama L'Tel is to protect something, but that's a gauge of the measure or either the quality or quantity, the type of need that I have. Is that enough of a need to allow certain sorts of Muktza? Chesaron Kiss is a complete different story. Chesaron Kiss is a Kelim, normally Kelim are omed for any other use, but very fragile Kelim or very expensive Kelim or both aren't omed for any other, or things that I don't move around aren't omed for other use because I wouldn't move them around. Yeah, sorry, Josh, I see you have a virtual hand raised.
Yeah, thanks. On this point about if you take a Kli Shemachta L'Issa or L'Heta, right, to cover something out to protect it. If you're arguing that perhaps you shouldn't be able to do that because generally protecting things is essentially something that's prohibited because of some Chana-like Svara, doesn't this remove it entirely from the whole anything to do with Muktza whatsoever?
That's what I'm saying. I don't think it's really a Hachana Svara. I think it's not enough of a Torah when I'm doing it for tomorrow, not for today. We're not learning Hilchas Hachana here. We're learning Hilchas Nechemia or Hilchas Muktza. But Rav and Abaya are arguing that as Nechemia unraveled, certain Srachim became butter, and they're saying that Mechama L'Tel isn't the sort of Torah that allows an unraveling of Nechemia. Why is it not the sort of Torah? Either because it's a need for tomorrow, not for today, or because it's a removal of a problem need rather than a positive need.
This be any removal of any problem, right? It's not specifically saving things.
Correct. Removal of problems rather than positive needs wouldn't be enough. That would be the Svara, yeah, maybe.
So well, I guess what's interesting is then you end up taking. I'm not allowed to pick up an object because something else needs saving, where otherwise I would be able to pick it up entirely. Like there'd be no issue with me.
It depends again. The Halacha. This is only a Kli Shemachta L'Issa, not a Kli Shemachta L'Heta. So let's just talk Halacha. Kli Shemachta L'Issa, I'm not allowed to pick up to save something else. That's right. That would be the Torah. Either I'm not allowed to pick it up to save itself, which is Mechama L'Tel, or I'm not even allowed to pick it up to save a mutter object. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm agreeing with your sentence, just without the question mark at the end.
Yeah. Okay. It seems counterintuitive.
That's the possibility. According to some poskim, yeah.
Okay. It seems. I guess you can pick it up to sit on it or something else, some other, because that's Gufo.
Correct.
Right?
That's exactly right. Yes. Yeah.
But I can't pick it up to protect something from the sun not because there's a problem with the object that I'm picking up, but because I've got an issue with the other object. It seems. I don't know.
No, there is a problem. It all starts because there's a problem with the object I'm picking up. The object I'm picking up either is Muktza or Gezeiras Nechemia. Now we're trying to work out what sort of need would allow me to trump that. And the answer is only a positive use of something, not removal of problems.
And why would then Kli Shemachta L'Heta would be okay?
Because it's a lesser Muktza or was unraveled more in the Gezeiras of Nechemia. Or because there's always deemed a positive use of it, because it's mistoma omed for use later today.
Okay, but that use is prohibited.
No, not klishim after the again. He said, why is it klishim after the more mutter? Either because it's a lesser issa, or because we deem it as always having a potential positive outcome. It's always called a soif because I could use it later today for myself.
That potential positive outcome, I'll stop talking soon, but the potential positive outcome is the same for the klishim after the heter and the klishim after the issa, which is to save it Nechemia.
The klishim after the issa, according to the svara, is not by default omed for a Shabbos use, and therefore the potential positive outcome is irrelevant. Whereas the klishim after the heter is omed for a Shabbos use, and therefore is relevant.
Yeah.
There's lots of maybes and hesitancy here because this is really the point I'm trying to bring out, that the exact definition of Mechama is not entirely clear. We can dream up scenarios that push us to the boundaries.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, again, just to summarize, right? We're learning Hilchos Muktza and we're learning Hilchos Nechemia, which is even beyond Muktza. There was a stage in Jewish history where even Kelim that were muchen for Shabbos use weren't allowed necessarily, and that slowly got unraveled. That's our topic. Now, besides unraveling Nechemia, there were certain needs which were considered pressing enough that in later generations, as there became less concerns about whatever Nechemia was worried about, they deemed a necessary need. However, Nechemia itself does not cross that threshold. It's not enough of a need. Why exactly is it not enough of a need? Either because it's not considered by klishim after this, it's not a Shabbos need, because I probably am not going to use it on Shabbos, not only made for use on Shabbos, or because it's removal of a problem. Both of those are a little unclear as to the exact boundaries, and therefore we can dream up scenarios where the halacha actually remains unclear. I mean, there's different achronim and different posting with different views. Where I'm doing it to save another object which is allowed on Shabbos is an afkamina, where I'm using it as a gift. It's not usable on Shabbos, but it'll bring someone pleasure on Shabbos. What other nafkaminas did we have? Where I'm planning to use it on Shabbos itself. So yes, it's true at the moment now I'm just saving it from damage, but I'm intending later to use it. All these scenarios remain unresolved in halacha. Okay, so that's what I wanted to say on Nechemia Latel, and if anyone has a shayla halacha namaisa about any of these scenarios, I wish them good luck in getting a clear answer to that question. I'm not going to go through all the Rambam comments, but there's prima gotims about this and Shartians and all sorts of other sort of important halachos that deal with this. But the bottom line is that the confusion all arises from a slight lack of clarity about what Nechemia Latel means and what its boundaries are. Okay, let's carry on the Gemara because I'm keen that we should be learning the Gemara. It's a good thing to learn Gemara. Yeah, I just open this to Rabbi Zobin on the members of the jury. But Shnei Bnei Adam, the best I could get to the Gemara again. So just for the sake of clarity, the Gemara considers a stage in which something would be allowed. I'm on the wrong daf, which is not helpful. In which something would be allowed for one person, but not for Shnei Bnei Adam. As far as I could understand in Rashi, and maybe in the other Rishonim also, the chiluk is whether it's movable by one person or only movable by two people. Is that correct? It's not about whether you happen to be one person moving or two people are moving it. It's whether the object is easily movable or not. Is that how everyone learned? Yeah, getting lots of nods.
Yes.
That if one person looks as based on an individual, therefore one person can't move it, it inherently looks to that person, and that's a slightly different logic to just.
Oh, that's a nice sorrow. Okay, that's interesting. Adam is saying a sorrow for those online. Do you think that's what the Rashba meant? Yeah. Okay, so I'll just say for those online, and then we'll have. I didn't see that in the Rashba. So okay, so we're jumping ahead. So let's just say. So Rashi and Rashba, everyone agrees. The Rishonim agree. The chiluk is it movable by one person, movable by two people? Now the question is why? Why should there be a difference? So I simply thought that the answer is that something that's only movable by two people, you're more it's less muchan for use. You're more maktadat from it, and that's what I thought the Rashba was saying. Adam is adding a slightly more beautiful and subtle svara. I don't know if it's a correct svara or not, but it's a nice svara that something that one person can move, they can have in their mind to use. something that only two people can use, by definition, you're dependent on someone else, and therefore too many cooks spoil the broth sort of thing. Neither person can be making it because each person is dependent on someone else. I'm having a brief glance at the Rashba now.
That was the Abaye sod in the fourth line. Tol she'einu nitzal ba'odam echad, Adam Muktza otom edat, then partim okay.
Yeah, I was coming from those very words themselves.
Here the Muktza is he's Muktza, and he mukts not that it's set aside, but the opposite. He mukts it from his data. It's a way to start.
Yeah. I think that reading is true. I just went for a simpler, a more basic, less nuanced version than that. I simply said, since you're dependent, I guess we're not saying that dissimilar, but I just said since you're dependent on someone else, you don't plan to use it because you'll have to find your mate to help you schlep it around. Yeah.
But is this in the focus of Gezeiras Nechemia?
Yes.
Saying if it's going to be hard work, we're not going to allow it. Because the whole Gezeiras Nechemia is about people taking Shabbos too late.
Very nice. Okay, so can I flesh out what you just said? And I hadn't thought of this either. Okay, so I just want to go in order, and then I'll come to your point because it's a very interesting point. So again, just to summarize, the Gemara says that has a stage at least that something would be allowed if it's movable by one person, but not allowed if it's movable by two people. Now I didn't understand that far. Why should it make a difference? I looked in the Rashba. And the Rashba, whether we say like my version, Adam's version, not a big enough commitment in terms of this. The Rashba says as far that you're Muktza midaso. Since it will take two people to move, you're less planning to use it, and therefore it's more Muktza. Now, what I was going to ask on that and leave unresolved was that 1 minute we're dealing with Nechemia, we're not dealing with Muktza. Muktza is a svara in preparedness. Nechemia was nothing to do with preparedness. Nechemia wanted to say that all Kelim should be asked, even Kelim that are completely mucham for use, and only later did that become a sort of a Muktza type svara. Now, that's not a massive question because at some point you do have to, a switch occurs in which, our focus moves from all Kelim to preparedness svaras. So according to this Rashba, we've now shifted to a preparedness svara, and it's about Adam Muktza. Gary is very beautifully suggesting that there's another alternative you can say. It's Gezeiras Nechemia was about avoiding people doing things that look like melachot or can drift you into melachot. So you can hear a good svara that something that takes two people to move looks more like a melachot than something that takes one person to move. It's more hard work, and therefore it looks more like a sort of professional, heavy lifting type use. And therefore, again, maybe that was the svara that when we unraveled Nechemia, we only allowed lightweight kelim, not heavyweight kelim. Very nice svara. Unfortunately, I didn't see it in any other Rishonim. I don't know, but it's a very, very, very good svara. Yeah, nice svara.
What Gary said reminds me a bit of the question of if they ever kept Kol Torah Kula, how could they keep Shabbat and as a non-Jew keep Shabbat, which is not allowed, but also keep Shabbat. And I think one of the answers given is that what they did was move heavy furniture around, which for a non-Jew would be considered not having a Shabbat, and for a Jew is not a melacha. But it does seem to sort of fit in what Gary said, that there is at least something not realistic about doing it.
Okay, so that even without Gary's svara, that is a halacha. That heavy labor is not allowed. But over here, you're not. I don't know if it's heavy labor. You're moving a kedi, But Gary's, it's a good point that it's nonetheless somewhat heavier lifting and therefore somewhat more melacha-like if you're in the world of Gezeiras of Nechemia. No. But I'm just saying that you're correct what you're saying. But that's even nowadays where we don't have this chiluk between one and two people. Heavy labor is not allowed on Shabbos, not as a melacha, but just as a non-Shabbostic activity, a teicha on Shabbos, heavy lifting on Shabbos. Okay, so we'll stop there. I guess just to tie this up, even though we've gone slightly over time. So just to summarize, the Gemara says the chiluk between shtei kelim and shtei bnei adam, one bnei adam. Rashi seems to indicate, and the Rashba says this in Furush, which is why I printed the Rashba, that there's a svara of Muktza in whether you're more Muktza das if you're metaltel. An interesting discussion between Adam and myself exactly how to say that svara, but either way, a good svara. Gary is machadish me and thought of this as a separate svara that maybe it's not a Muktza svara, it's a sort of malacha-like likeness svara. And the other thing I just wanted to mention from the Rashba and the Shiur for that matter is the Rashba seems to say that Abai and Rava argue over this. Adsha Omru Kol HaKelim Todim Shabbos Afilu Shnei Adam. The Rashba seems to say that Rava and Abai argue whether Adsha Omru is true, that eventually they allowed Shnei Bnei Adam, and the Shiur says that everyone agrees that that Abai and Rava, Abai and Rava both agree that eventually they announced Shnei B'nai Adam. Just as a matter of historical interest, the Run quotes this from the Ra'ah. There were two Gedolim at one time in Barcelona, very interesting historical fact, the Rashba and the Ra'ah. And as is the way of Talmidei Chachamim, they argued sometimes in Pshat and Gemara or in Halacha. They both wrote very important, beautiful Perushim on the Gemara, and they both were Poskim, important influence on Halacha. And their learning style slightly differed. Their Pshat and Gemara slightly differed, and their Halacha L'maisa slightly different. And they had the unique privilege and gift and bracha of sharing many Talmidim, because they were both Rosh Yeshivas in Barcelona. The Ritva was a Talmud of both, the Run was a Talmud of both, and so on. So we have a lot of very rich Torah that emerged from this fortunate coincidence of history that you have these two Gedolei Olam living in one town in a world in which there wasn't much communication. They wrote Sforim in which they footnoted each other. So the Ra'ah wrote a very important work, and the Rashba then wrote a sort of critique of it, and then the Ra'ah responded to that critique. So a lot of rich Torah was generated by by the sort of shared location of two Gedolei Ador. Either way, here we have a very small example, not small, but an example of such machlokas. The Rashba taught his Talmidim that Rav and Abai are arguing over the line of Shatmu Kolakenim Netanim Shabbos Afidu B'Shnei B'nai Adam, and the Ra'ah taught his Talmidim that they both agree to that. This isn't part of the machlokas between Rava and Abaya. And we'll stop on that note. I wish everyone a good day. Bye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I learned that even though it's only spelt out later in the Gemara, but it's not on the Kudos Machlokas. This was never part of the argument. It just he was never nochas to this, and he was. But it wasn't part of the debate between the two of them. That's how I learned. Yeah. Okay, shkoyach everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.